husband never wears these. He won't notice they're gone. You know, I bet I could sell this. I paid a lot of money for this. I'm gonna keep it. I have been decluttering my home, and there are a few very common mistakes that you might be making. You don't want to do these. Some of these are mistakes that I've made myself, but some of these come from you guys as comments on my videos, and I wanted to share them. I don't think you need to become a minimalist if you want to declutter your home. I do think, though, that it's worth it to consider how you can make your home more functional. And by making it more functional, you start to see what you truly need and what you want to keep. And that makes it a heck of a lot easier to know what you want to get rid of and declutter. I'm going to start with the small mistakes, and then I'm going to work my way up to the even bigger ones and the mistakes you definitely want to avoid. Okay, the first mistake, and we have all probably done this, I've done it multiple times, but it is hanging on to items for a garage sale that you want to have in the future, or maybe for selling the items. It's never going to happen. Trust me, I have saved so many items for my many fictional garage sales. Well, guess what? I have never even had one garage sale. So don't save your items unless you have the garage sale date on the calendar. You actually have it scheduled and set up and you know it's happening. Don't do it. It is too tempting to start making a pile and leaving it there for months, years. You know what I'm talking about. Just make a plan for the item to leave your home. I've also held on to things thinking that I'm gonna sell the item. I no longer try to sell the item. I find that it's just too much going back and forth with people online, trying to figure out if they actually are interested. You get 100 emails, is this still available? It's just not worth it. The next one is donating items that are unsuitable or even unusable. I've had a lot of comments on my channel supporting this thought. A lot of times, and I've heard this directly from donation center places, is people will use the donation center and they will drop off things that are broken, that need to be repaired. Maybe they're stained. Essentially, it's truly just trash, and they are using the donation center as almost like a trash receptacle. You don't want to do that to the donation center people. It is not only not fair to them, it just causes them to be overworked, and a lot of donation centers have closed because of this issue. I think that people feel guilty about getting rid of so many items sometimes. Maybe they feel guilty because they've bought a lot of items and now they feel like, well, if I donate them, I'll feel a little less guilty. And I understand. I feel very guilty when I end up buying things and they're not amazing like I thought they were going to be and I have to donate them. That's why I'm so very careful these days with what I bring into my home, with what I buy. So just donate whatever's truly donatable. And if it's not, then think about maybe mining the item for parts. Maybe you can recycle it. If all else fails, it's got to go into the landfill. There's a key concept in business and in decision making, and you've probably heard of it. It is the sunk cost fallacy. And I totally think this can be applied to decluttering. I like to think of it as the costs that you've invested already into this item, whether it's the time you took to buy it, the time now that you're doing to take care of it and store it, maybe it's the money that you spent on it. Let's say you bought an expensive dress, okay? Something that I did, and it didn't quite fit me, but I said, you know what, it's really beautiful, and I'm gonna make it fit me one day. Well, guess what? It never fit me. It's just too tight. I could squeeze into it, and then I would have a miserable evening. We don't want to do that. But I've been hanging on to the dress because it's again, it was expensive, and I think it's beautiful. But why am I hanging on to it? I cannot wear it. I do not need it. A lot of people, as they're going through their items and they see them, they have this sunk cost fallacy in their mind and they think to themselves, well, I've had this for so long, or I got this for this price and I've spent this much money on it, so I should keep it. Don't fall into this trap. Basically, you need to remember, yes, you have spent the money, but that is done. Let's think about today and if it is serving you having this item in your closet today. If you don't have the space for it, you should not hang on to it. Don't allow the sunk cost fallacy to influence your decision making. The next mistake that you certainly want to avoid is hanging on to other people's clutter, other people's items because you feel bad or guilty. This is for all of you guys who have commented on my videos and you've said, listen, I don't buy anything, but so many people have passed things down to me. My kids have left boxes and boxes of their items with me, and I have a ton of stuff because of it. You do not need to be the storage facility for everyone else. I even feel bad myself because I definitely have boxes at both my mom's house and my dad's house that's my stuff from when I was younger. And every time I go home, go to visit them, it's never a good time for me to take it home. I have to fit it in the car and we never have space. You know the drill. I'd say if you are hanging on to your family's items and you know what, maybe it's stuff that's been passed down to you that you no longer need or you maybe never even wanted, then make a plan for it to leave your home. Call your kids, tell them, I'm gonna mail this to you, or you need to pick this up by X date. Or I have grandpa's XYZ, do you want it? And try to figure out how you can get these items out of your home if you don't want them and if you don't have the space for them, especially if it's causing you stress. If you like content like this, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. It's free. Next thing you definitely want to avoid is taking on too much at one time. And I have certainly tried to do this before. If you have a ton of decluttering to do, maybe you want to declutter your whole home, that's fine. I have a great video on slow decluttering. I'm gonna link it as a card. I urge you to watch it. When you take on too much decluttering at one time, inevitably you will get decision fatigue. When you have to make a decision on item after item after item, it just becomes too much and you get overwhelmed and you're done with it. The other thing that I find when you have a lot to do is you end up creating a big mess. Say you're decluttering your whole kitchen and you tell your family, you can't use this kitchen for a few days, I'm gonna be decluttering. Well, that's gonna turn into a few weeks because once you get everything out and you get this mess, you're just not really gonna feel motivated to keep on going. That's why I really love Dana K. White's no mess method. I had been decluttering this way for years without realizing it was an actual method. You just declutter right where you are and you don't make a mess while you're doing it. You make a decision on each item in that moment and you put it where it needs to go. Getting into the even bigger mistakes, but the next one is decluttering when you feel some kind of a way. And let me explain what I mean. I've had a lot of comments on this and I feel terrible when this happens to people. Sometimes when you're upset, maybe you're going through grief, whatever the reason is, if you are feeling not your usual way and you start decluttering and you take on this big decluttering project, what could happen? You could end up having decluttering regret and get rid of things that you didn't actually want to declutter. I don't think you want to use this as an excuse to not declutter, but just know yourself and know how you're feeling. And I would say, don't take on any big decluttering projects until you're feeling back to your usual self. Because you never want to go too crazy and get rid of things that you might keep. And by the way, if you have declutter regret, it happens to the best of us. Let it go. Don't worry about it. There's nothing you can do about it now. Try to just move past it. I know it's easier said than done. Okay, this one's kind of similar, but it's not decluttering because you're afraid you're going to have decluttering regret and that you're going to get rid of something that you should have kept. Ordinarily, people are worried that they're going to declutter a wooden spoon that they might need or a pot that they might need. I know we all worry about this, but you know what I say? I have decluttered hundreds of things in my lifetime, but I can count on one hand the number of times that I actually regret something. The reason is most of the time we err on the side of keeping something rather than decluttering it most of the time, and so it just doesn't happen as often as you may think. Decluttering regret is not a pervasive feeling that a lot of people have. And a lot of cases, I mean, you don't want to do this often, but a lot of times if you do declutter something, a lot of times you can repurchase it or reacquire the item. Obviously, if it's sentimental or a one-of-a-kind kind of a thing, that's not possible. But if it's a wooden spoon, like I mentioned before, or a pot, totally you can re-get that if you need it. I do think decluttering and minimalism culture can go a little bit too far. So just be smart about it and use your judgment on what you need to have in your home and what you need to surround yourself with to have that functional home that we talked about. This next one has always been a personal rule of mine, and I put it in another video and I got so many comments about it. My rule, and the one thing you want to avoid, is never declutter other people's things. So many of you shared stories where someone had decluttered your stuff and how upsetting it was to you. Some of you also shared stories on how you decluttered other people's things and they were so mad at you. People get very emotional about their stuff. People feel very attached to their stuff. So you don't want to go in and declutter people's things, no matter if you think that they won't notice, because people will get upset. They will get emotional. My one slight exception to this rule is if you have younger kids and you're decluttering their clothing that they've grown out of. Obviously, if they have a very favorite shirt, then involve them a bit and you want to talk to them a bit about it. But most of the time, I end up decluttering my kids' clothes and they're happy about it and fine with it, and they've moved on to their new clothes. These are all of the things to avoid when you're decluttering, and these are all of the mistakes. But what do you do if you have a small home? Or maybe you're moving, you're downsizing, and you're going to have less space? Don't worry, I recently did a video that can help with that. I'm gonna link it here. So go ahead and learn about all the things you can do if you need to declutter, if you're downsizing, if you don't have any storage. Click on it and I will see you over there. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.